The War for Mansoul by John Bunyan, as told by Ethel Barrett. Copyright 1998, Christian Light Publications Incorporated, Harrisonburg, Virginia. Further Conspiracy in the Pit, Part 2. The bell began to toll, and a horrible noise it made. He listened with satisfaction for a moment. Then he began to pace back and forth. Alecto, take this down. To our offspring, the high and mighty diabolans that yet dwell in Mansoul, we have in our desolate den received, to our highest joy and content, your welcome letter by the hand of our trusty Mr. Profane. And to show you how acceptable your tidings are, we had dead man's bell rung for joy. We rejoice to hear that Mansoul has fallen into a degenerated condition. Its sickness pleases us, as does your health, might, and strength. How glad we would be, right horribly beloved, if we could get this town into our clutches again. We are willing to spend our wit, our cunning, our craft, and all hellish inventions in order to do so. Here is what we, the trusty princes of the pit, suggest. Pry into and spy out. Pry into and spy out their weaknesses. Then attempt to weaken them more and more. We submit 3 methods for you to consider. 1. Persuade them to live a vain and loose life. Or 2. Tempt them to doubt and despair. Or 3. Blow them up by the gunpowder of pride and self-conceit. Be always in readiness to make a most hideous assault within when we are ready to storm it without. And now speed you and your project to the utmost power of our gates. This is a wish of your great Diabolus, Mansoul's enemy, and let him that trembles when he thinks of judgment to come. All the blessings of the pit be upon you, given at the pit's mouth by the joint consent of all the princes of darkness, to be sent to the force and power that we have yet remaining in Mansoul by the hand of Mr. Profane, by me, Diabolus. The Diabolans all fell upon Profane when he returned to the den of mischief with the letter. And how is our master? And Cerberus, how is the old dog of Hellgate? They are all as well as can be expected under the circumstances, said Profane. But they're all so anxious to get back here, our letter was a great encouragement to them. And here is an answer. They all fell upon the letter then, and nearly tore it to shreds before it could be read. Then they crouched around to decide what could be done. The first and foremost thing, said Mischief, is to keep from Mansoul any designs we might contrive against them. Remember, absolute secrecy. Now, gentlemen, what is your pleasure? Lord Deceit? He has suggested 3 ways to undo them, Deceit began. Make them loose and vain, drive them to doubt and despair, blow them up with self-conceit. Now, I think if we should tempt them to pride, that may do something. If we tempt them to wantonness, that may help. But in my opinion, if we could drive them into desperation, that would knock the nail right on the head. They all nodded in satisfaction. 4, Deceit went on, then we should have them question the truth of the love of their prince toward them. Then they stop sending those petitions, and then they conclude that as long as they're not getting anywhere, they might as well give up. They nodded again. But how? How do we do this? You remember, Deceit answered, when you suggested that we hire out as servants, and I said no. Yes, you said no, they remembered. Well, now I say yes, he said, but disguised. Some of us are more suited to a project like this than others. I suggest 3 to start with. Mr. Covetousness, Mr. Lasciviousness, and Lord Anger. He thought for a moment. They waited in silence. Mr. Covetousness as prudent, thrifty. Ooh, how subtle. Lord Lasciviousness as, let's see, how about harmless mirth? How clever. And Lord Anger as good zeal. Ooh, genius, bravo. And so it was decided. And then the letters began to fly back and forth between Mr. Mischief's den and the pit. Memo. From Underground in Mansoul. To Diabolus. The lords of looseness send to the great high Diabolus from our dens, caves, holds, and strongholds, in and about the wall of the town of Mansoul, greetings. Our great master, how glad we were when we heard of your readiness to help us forward our design to ruin Mansoul. First, we considered your hellishly cunning suggestions and decided that to drive them to desperation was the best plan of all. Second, we have sent 3 of our trusty Diabolans among them disguised, and you'll be happy to hear that they had no trouble in getting themselves hired out as servants. They clothed themselves in sheep's russet, which was as white as were the white robes of the men of Mansoul. As they could speak the language of Mansoul well, when they went to the marketplace and offered themselves for hire, they were taken up almost at once, for they asked but little wages and promised to do their masters great service. What they changed their names to is a matter of great mirth. You will never believe how clever we were. Mr. Covetousness called himself by the name of Prudent Thrifty, and was hired by Mr. Mind. Lord Lasciviousness called himself Harmless Mirth, and it's true he did hang a little in hand and did not get hired as readily as others because of Lent. But as soon as Lent was over, Lord Wilbywill hired him to be both waiting man and lackey. Lord Anger changed his name to Good Zeal and got hired by Mr. Godlyfear. But we're sorry to tell you that he did not fool his master for very long. It was, in fact, no time at all before that peevish old gentleman took pepper in the nose and turned the poor chap out of his house. The others are doing very well, though, and are making their masters almost as wanton as themselves, and we hope to get Lord Anger hired out again soon. We suggest that you come upon the town on a market day, when the townspeople are the busiest and the most preoccupied, for it is then that they will feel most secure and least apt to think of invasion. They will also be less able to defend themselves and give you trouble. We also suggest that when you attack, you use an army of doubters. For all the legions that are at your whistle, we think doubters may be the most likely to overcome the town. Meanwhile, we are happy to report that they get sicker and weaker, and all in all, things are looking up. Be assured that we already have a foot in their door. It is only a matter of time. To the monsters of the infernal cave, from the house of Mr. Mischief and Mansoul, by the hand of Mr. Profane. Memo. From Diabolus to Underground in Mansoul. Beloved offspring in the den of Mr. Mischief. Greetings. We received your letter with great joy. It was good to see Mr. Profane so lively and strong. We can only wish the rest of you are prospering as well as he. With your letter, the hollow belly and yawning gorge of the pit gave so loud and hideous a groan that it made the mountains about it totter as if they would fall in pieces. Your first project in Mansoul is likely to be lucky. If you succeed in making Mansoul yet more vile and filthy, more power to you. For there is no way to destroy a soul any more successfully. In fact, this should be for us a maxim and general rule for all ages. For nothing can make this fail but grace, and we certainly would hope that there will be no grace around to abound for Mansoul. Whether to fall upon them on a market day because of their preoccupation and cumber in business is a matter for debate. We should consider this carefully, for upon this will turn the whole of what we shall attempt. The success of the entire enterprise depends upon timing. If we do not time our business well, our whole project could fail. What if, for instance, they should double their guards on those days? It seems that reason and plain common sense would teach them to do it. Of course, the question is whether Mansoul has that much sense. If they are as asleep as you seem to indicate, of course any day will do. Please advise us. Does Mansoul know how bad off it is? Or of our designs? Is it apt to be wary and double its guards? In haste and impatience, to be sent to Diabolans in Mansoul by the hand of Mr. Profane, by me, Diabolus. Memo. From Underground in Mansoul. To Diabolus. Great and high Diabolus, from our dens in Mansoul, greetings. As far as we can gather, this is at present the condition of the town of Mansoul. 1. They are decayed in their faith and love. 2. Emmanuel the Prince has turned his back on them. 3. They have sent and are sending frequent petitions to fetch him again. In fact, their messages are meeting each other, going and coming, on the road to Shaddai's court. 4. He seems in no hurry to answer their petitions. 5. There does not seem to be much reformation among them. To mighty Diabolus, from the den of mischief, by the hand of Profane. Memo. From Diabolus to Underground in Mansoul. friends in Mansoul, and the den of Mr. Mischief. We are glad to hear they are backward in reformation, but we are very much afraid of their petitioning. However, let us not be too discouraged. Their looseness of life is a sure sign that there is not much heart in what they do. Without the heart, their petitions will be nothing but words, words, words. My lords tell me to advise you to go slowly, and remind me that what carnal security did can be done again. 2 or 3 diabolins, if accepted by Mansoul, can do more harm than an army or a legion that could be sent out by us. So I should tell you to carry on. But this I find very hard to do. My empty paunch is lusting. To my trusty friends in Mansoul, from the pit, by the hand of Profane, by me, Diabolus. Memo. From underground in Mansoul, to Diabolus. Mighty Diabolus, from the den of mischief, greetings. O great master, we wait impatiently too. We are still prosecuting your design by using all our power, cunning, and skill to draw Mansoul into more and more sin and wickedness. We shall continue to debauch them, so that by the time you attack, they will be utterly unable to make resistance. To our lords in the pit, from Mischief's den, by the hand of Profane. Memo. From Diabolus, to underground in Mansoul. Trusty ones in about the walls of Mansoul, from the dark and horrible dungeon of the pit. Greetings. I know you have been waiting impatiently for our most devilish answer to your venomous and poisonous design against the town of Mansoul. My gaping gorge and yawning paunch are on fire to put your inventions into execution. I am raising, therefore, an army of more than 20,000 doubters to come against that people with all the speed I can. You must still use all your power, cunning, and skill to draw them into even more sin than they are already. As to the time of our coming upon Mansoul, as we have yet not fully resolved upon that. But when you hear our roaring drum without, your orders are to make the most horrible confusion within. Then Mansoul shall be distressed before and behind, and shall not know which way to betake itself for help. My lords salute you. Cerberus, the dog of hell, wishes to be remembered by you. From our dreadful confines in the pit, by Mr. Profane, by me, Diabolus. Memo. From underground in Mansoul, to Diabolus. Great Master Diabolus, from the den of mischief, greetings. All is well. We are in. The Mansoulians have petitions and regard iniquity in their hearts. They grow weaker. They cry to their king for help and take diabolins to their bosoms. The diabolins and the Mansoulians walk the streets together. There's no great difference now between them. So come ahead. Things were never better. In haste, from the den of mischief, by the hand of Profane.